Good afternoon.
I'm Nikhil Mehta.
And I'm Daniel Rotter.
On the 1290 AM MVTV radio station.
So it's the halfway point of the MLB season, and a lot of people are wondering who should be the MVP.
In the AL, there's a lot of competition. You have Chris Davis, you have Miguel Cabrera. I think we have a caller coming in. Hello?
Yes. I believe the MVP is definitely a tight race, but thinking about how terrible the Phillies have been this year, they'd be nowhere even close to the 500 mark without a man named Dominic Brown. Had a terrible start to the season, but now he's showing up. He's showing that the Phillies could get back into the playoff race if Dominic Brown heats up. I want to know your thoughts on thinking that Brown is the MVP.
We can get back to the AL later. He didn't start very well. He's hot, but players like him tend to be rather streaky. Of course, it is, almost only halfway. So if he keeps doing this for the rest of the season, I definitely think he should get some thought into being the MVP. But right now, I think Carlos Gonzalez is an excellent candidate for the MVP.
And also, our caller, we were talking about AL. So I'm going to have to disagree with that for AL and NL. I don't think that he will be the NL MVP. I think that there are too many options who have been consistent for a long time, and especially this year, such as Carlos Gonzalez.
Yeah, I do agree with my co-host. However, if Dominic Brown continues this type of performance, I would definitely give him some thought as NL MVP. Carlos Gonzalez is up near 20 home runs now. He has over 300 batting average. He's driving in the runs. He's really being the producer along with Troy Tulowitzki for Colorado. I'm sure there's other candidates, but what are your thoughts, Daniel?
I just think that Dominic Brown, I can't really see it. I think that there are just too many other options that, not everyone really knows about Dominic Brown. If you're thinking about the Phillies, people are like, oh, Roy Halladay, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Cliff Lee, Jonathan Papelbon. No one really knows about Dominic Brown unless you follow baseball kind of more than the average person.
But if not Dominic Brown, then who?
I gotta say Carlos Gonzalez.
All right, on to the AL. I'm looking at Chris Davis because he's dominating home runs. Surprisingly enough, he hasn't been a great average hitter, but he's still hanging up there in average.
He's batting in the 330s.
Well, for 330s for a guy that hasn't batted above 300 in his career, it's really significant. And the home run level he's hitting, I really think that he'll give Miguel Cabrera a run for his money.
Well, we've got a caller. Let's see what he says.
Well, hi again. I'm thinking of what you guys thought of last night's Stanley Cup final game between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Boston Bruins. 2 goals in 17 seconds. One heck of a game that it's going to be a classic for a long time to come. Did the Bruins choke, or did the Blackhawks take it and really deserve it?
I think the Blackhawks did deserve it. 2 goals in 17 seconds. It's a bit of both. The first goal is all Blackhawks because a goal in any situation pretty much is always the offense. But then allowing another within 17 seconds means a turnover, and then the Blackhawks offense kicking back up into high gear.
And that big point streak that they had earlier in the year, the Blackhawks, you could tell that they were really starting well even after the lockout, and that I kind of think that they deserved it. But back to the MVP race, I think it's Miguel Cabrera. I know Chris Davis is really hitting the ball well now, but Miguel Cabrera is batting in the 350s. He's still got those home runs up there. He's got 70-something RBIs. Miguel Cabrera is just really hitting the ball well, and he's got, both Miguel Cabrera and Chris Davis have some protection in the lineup. You got Adam Jones, J.J. Hardy, Manny Machado in that O's lineup, but for the Tigers, you got Austin Jackson, Prince Fielder. Both have a lot of protection. So, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a really close race. Other awards, one of the big ones is Cy Young Awards. Now, in the AL, Verlander's had a great start, but he's been pretty rocky his last 5 to 10 starts. Right? So, I'm not really sure who I'd pick at this point because early in the season it looked like Verlander would take the cake, but I'm not sure who I'd pick at this point. It's actually one of the more tighter races I've seen at the midpoint. What about you, Daniel?
I've got someone in mind, and I think I would have to go with Yu Darvish from the Texas Rangers. I mean, he's been pitching really well. He strikes out a lot of guys.
And then in the NL, there's a lot of good players. I mean, again, pitching this year has been really, really, really on track. It's going to all depend on how teams do after the All-Star break. I know Matt Harvey is definitely a huge candidate because he's just been on fire. If he got run support from the Mets, from the lackluster offense of the Mets, I think he'd have a real good chance of winning. I think he certainly would.
Yep.
All right, that'll be all for today.
I'm Daniel Rotter.
And I'm Nikhil Mehta.
See you, and have a great afternoon.